Listen, folks, we got a neat show coming up here, and has to do with looking back in time over December fishing. And I could look at December 14th, December 15th was a huge day um, in both saltwater and freshwater for me over the years. I remember running the Mustang, having a wide open sea bass bite on December 15th. Also, my sister's birthday today. The 14th is my daughter's birthday, but you know what? Don't put your rods away. Do not put your rods away. Phil just told me too that they're calling in limits of bluefin, a nice fish. What, 20s to 50s, Phil,
Yeah,
something like
20 to
that.
50. I
You
think
know,
the Polaris
don't
frame had 54 fish for a 2-day trip. They just
l-
got in this morning.
look at your watches and calendars, folks. I think we called it earlier. They're not going anywhere. And now that the water's cooling off, and think about this, folks. You guys that went fishing this summer, when you're dropping down the 300 feet and so, just imagine what the water temp is down there. Okay, it's probably no different than it is now. you know, and with the influx and availability of squid year round to feed these things, they are definitely not going anywhere. The tough part is the coverage at this point in time. You don't have the fleet and the numbers to stay on them where through the radio you can converse and somebody's getting bit, you have a shot to run to them and get to them, and get everybody bit and stay on the fish because they do, if they have fins, they have tails, they move. So they don't stay in one position in one place all the time. They're going to move, follow the baits, and could be from a certain section of the bank to the other, another bank. But just the coverage is the thing that hinders us right now. But
Absolutely.
as far as fishing goes, it's still down fair. Yeah, he said it was tremendous fishing on what, 20 to 50 pound fish.
Yeah. How can you beat
And
that?
yeah, you can't. This is December, folks.
I
But
know.
again, I look back in time and uh, I've had. I look back in my album on a December 15th. We had a white sea bass bite, and it was at right at Point Firm. In fact, Tom Durr can tell you about that story because we were coming home on a Sunday, and that December 15th was a Monday. And coming home on a Sunday, and we found out the guys were getting whacked. They had a nice whack at Point Firm. I was coming back from Catalina, so I had still had a one of my tanks full of squid. So on the way home, we stopped and we picked a handful of sea bass. I mean, this is after it all went on, but so I told my crew, tomorrow morning we're doing a goof off trip. You know,
We're going
we're
fishing.
going fishing, and no problem. We're all going to do that. So we meet down there. We meet down there in the morning, and it turns out several of the boats, the Explorer, the Ocean Quest, these guys, all the other crews took some goof offs. Well, they all hit my receiver, and they took a bunch of the squid. They left us some squid, but So anyway, they went out, didn't do anything. Later that afternoon and night, we shot out in the morning. It was foggy. We get out there, and it was funny because Tom Durr, Tom Durr was out there by himself in his skipjack. He was all anchored.
Of course he was by himself.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to fish with that old crank.
There you go. So as we pull up, he's already bendo on the sea bass, right? And I got my crew, and they're seeing Tom bit. Well, I don't know whether it's Marty Tanaka or one of we put the anchor over, and I'm sitting there, and we're usually we hang it. Then we said, oh well, I think they threw it because it's so sheltered at Point Furman. We tied it off. He tied it off, and we started dragging because there was a little bit of breeze
Right
coming out of
toward
the west,
Durr.
right? Yeah, we bumped.
You did?
Tom had two fish going, but we had to cushion his skipjack, and because we didn't hang anchor, we pushed him off the spot. Well, I think he had his limit with the two fish anyway, but or maybe it was three back then.
Did he have a few choice words for you, or was he
Oh, it didn't
okay?
matter. It didn't matter to me. I would have laughed anyway.
Yeah.
I said that was a good move. That was a great defensive move on our part.
Yeah.
And so anyway, pull back up, and it's foggy, and we get the anchor. We do set this time, and we just went bendo. And folks, I think I could have had him on a lift pole that day if I
Wow.
took. But it was crazy. But that was a December 15th.
And here on December the 14th, there's a whole bunch of squid out there at Furman right now. So who knows, right?
You just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know. I know there's more sea bass now than there was back in those days.
Absolutely.
Sea bass bite was pretty rare back in those days.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I mean, we
Gill
smoked
nets kind of
flat
wiped them
out.
out.
Yeah. Well, we ended up smoking them, but I mean, yeah, they made a good comeback. They made a great comeback.
Hey,
But
before you
go
get
ahead.
rolling, I have to make mention of a couple things. Number one,
Sure.
your show with Gary Loomis was extraordinary. And I had people, Sam De La Torre over at Island Fishing Tackle, he
Yeah.
goes, I was watching that and I could just tell those guys were such good friends. That came through. But not only that, all the funny stories. And
Oh,
it was a great, great
Phil,
podcast.
what? Oh,
Oh,
I gotta turn off my phone, folks. My wife.
can you believe this guy after all this
Oh,
time?
watch this. Gail, I'm on the radio. I gotta call you back, dear. How's that? How's that, folks? You hear that?
We can't hear
Okay,
Gail.
I'll talk to you later,
Is she
babe.
chewing you out or anything?
No, she doesn't. She won't do that. I'll see you later. Let me shut this down. Keep that in mind, folks. You do a podcast, turn off the phones. There's another lesson learned. But no,
Back to Gary.
back to Gary. All those years with Gary, we had more fun than you could even imagine. I can tell you, pretty much we're all considered family. We did family trips all over the place, and it's amazing. And his health is kind of waning, but we had good news that my dear wife and her friend, who's a pastor, uh, went out to go see Gary at Disneyland, and he accepted the Lord.
Whoa,
So that was a huge deal.
that's a great
That
thing.
was a huge deal. As far as we're concerned, it's a very, it doesn't get off subject. That's part of it. Being a good person and everything else. That he was missing that, and I'm so happy for him. It's pretty awesome. So
Oh,
that was absolutely good news.
perfect. And a couple other things I
Yeah.
want to mention. Number one, hit that like button. We've got 0 likes up there. Bermudas. You think I'm going to read your question if you can't take the time to hit the like button? What's wrong with you? Hey, I'm kidding you, but if you could hit that like button, we deeply appreciate it. Number two, couple of people who love this show, Dan and Kim Smith. Kim had surgery this morning. I haven't heard how that went, but we send her all our love and prayers.
Healing prayers going out to you, Kim.
Yeah, you remember, I don't know if you remember, but Dan is a great big commercial fisherman, and Kim, his wife, is a Chinese lady, and she's a big carnivore diet person.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so she had some surgery today. And you know what her question was going into surgery to the doctor?
When can I eat?
When can I go fishing?
Oh, okay.
So
Okay, I would have had both of them. I
there
think.
you go. I'll read a couple questions and then I'm going to turn you loose because you got some great stories. Steve Bermudas, I guess I will read his question. And there's, God darn you, Steve. Maybe the light thing's not working. All right, Steve Bermudas says the temperature, and that's why rockfish taste so good, one refrigerator to another. They're in that cold water.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Jeff Yeomans from the 540 Slingers Club. Jeff, thank you for your service. Thank you for all you do for Friedman Adventures. He says, good afternoon. Phil and Danny. Jeff's a great guy also. I know you know him.
Yes.
Gary
Good
Bush.
to hear from all you guys.
Hi, Danny and Phil. Gary from Lima Glass. How do you feel about bluefin tuna in May? I'm booked on the Shogun. Let me just say before you answer, I've got a 5-day trip in April, so I feel really good in May because I feel good in April. But what do you say, Danny?
It's going to happen all year, folks. They're going to be around. It's just a matter of getting on them. The amount of squid that are available in all the banks now. I mean, once they get on that diet, I think, if you look long term, I think we're going to start one day see those fish that we saw coming out of the Channel Islands, those 800,000 pounders, just like they do in the Mediterranean or out in the middle of, out in the middle of the Pacific. I think we'll see those days again. If it continues like this. And as you all know, after fishing, I mean, we were all up to here with bluefin, but like I'm ready for another shot already.
Yeah, I know, right?
But if
Doesn't take long.
doesn't take long. Doesn't take long. It made it nice that at this time of year, a lot of us sport guys, we got on our bass boats and we ran around the lakes and chased those things. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on too.
Great.
But yeah, no, it's that time of year. It's December, but particularly here in California, we're blessed in that we can fish 12 months out of the year, without ice fishing, without augers and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I know, right?
you pick and choose. I'm getting ready. One of the other things that's cooling off, I'm going to get ready to take the grandkids out to some of these put and take lakes, the 2 to 4 year old grandkids that they just already, I'm going to mess them up and they're going to be fish killers.
Kenny Hahn Lake, I hear is good. Andrew from Island Fishing Tqckle told me he's been there several times and he's been whacking them. It's been really good.
It's great too. I mean, the city. They've been stocking local, and I think what a great thing, especially for inner city kids
Yeah,
and
right.
stuff like that. I
Who
mean,
may not
how
get the
good does that
opportunity.
get? Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And you got to have that start. It's inexpensive. You need a little rod. The 2 to 4 pound rod, and honestly, 2 pounds really all you need. I'd stay lighter line, folks. That's always the key.
Exactly what
Trout
Andrew
fishing,
said.
lighter line, fluorocarbon gives you an edge. Use good hooks, light hooks. A lot of times if you actually put them on a scale, which is just it's very difficult. Most people won't go to that extent. But if you get some of the light mosquito hooks, you know, all those things make a real big difference when you're fishing. Believe it or not, I call these inner city fish streetwise. They get sharp. They're not easy to catch.
That's
Phil,
a
you remember we did that trip out at Santa Ana River Lakes,
yeah.
right? And the reason why I was getting hammered, I was using lighter line the whole time, and that's going to count for it. Yeah, you're going to hook a big fish every now and then, but I've landed some big ones on 2 pound. So it's just the way you fight it. Your tackle. You do have to have a reel with a great drag, and I'm using a lot of Daiwas. Go over them using the Daiwa light spins, and use a good grade of rod of reel. And same thing, I'm using graphite, and I've got specific actions that I utilize, for casting, for bait fishing and stuff like that. But for the kids, really the starter outfits. A couple Christmases ago, I went and got, I think I bought about 10 or 12, those little 4.5 footers from
Yeah.
Daiwa
Right.
outfits for Christmas for all the grandkids.
Yeah, they're
And
perfect.
so that's absolutely perfect for them, and just load it up with 2 pound, because if you hook a big fish, all right, you may or may not get them, but yeah, your odds are still pretty good with 2 pound, you know. But the part that you're going to get bit more is even more important. Use some fluorocarbon, good little light hooks, whether you're using power bait or a power worm or something like that, or salmon eggs, whatever they're biting. But you have to have a little array of bait too. Find out, do your homework before you go, and it's the best way to get kids started. Get them hooked on that.
Absolutely. 100% good stuff. And Gary, best of luck on that trip in May. We're going to kill him in April on the Independence, which incidentally is right here at 22nd Street. She's beautiful, isn't
Oh
she?
my God, sitting right here.
Yeah, she's right here.
Sitting
So
right here.
best luck. By the way, Gary, my buddy Bob Osborne, who's an avid surf fisherman, fishes the surf a lot, says that a Lama Glass steelhead rod, there's nothing better for the Southern California surf. So there you go, man. He loves that particular style of rod.
Absolutely.
Robert Slagers, Danny, have you done slow pitch jigging for bluefin tuna?
No, I haven't. I have not. I have not.
Any desire to do it?
To me, it looks like a lot of work, and I'm more in up and down. You guys, I'm couple more months, and I'm the big 7-0. I think that hardcore running around throwing the iron and stuff. I will when it's on, but I have what I'm doing now in fishing the rail, and particularly when you're fishing the bluefin. I'm using the rail on almost everything, whether it's a 30-pound stick like we did on the Freedom to 100, 150, unlimited type rod. It's going to be on the rail. It's going to be angled down here. Um, I'm going to use the boat, and I'm going to use my timing to put that fish on, because sheer strength and everything else is not what it used to be, folks. So you have to use your head and fish smart.
100%. Sounds good. Steve Bermuda says a lesson learned. Danny showing who wears the pants.
Oh, when Gail called?
Oh, maybe.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. I hope Gail's not listening. Gail,
Yeah, the
I'll
warden.
keep him in
The
line
warden.
here.
Yeah.
I will not let him. Gail, sometimes he'll sneak upstairs to the bar. Oh, that's a.
Oh,
Sometimes he'll sneak upstairs to the bar and start drinking too many Diet Cokes. I'll make sure that doesn't happen today. I'll keep an eye on him for you.
oh my God.
Dave Clark, 3 years ago, December 2020, on the Tribute, we had 80 bluefin tuna in 4 hours on Cortez Bank. What a memory, Dave. Thanks for
People,
sharing.
and see, they really even, I doubt that they've ever moved in the last few years, with the biomass, the bait. There's no reason for them to go anywhere, folks. I think a lot of it is a lot of guys are done because they've had nothing but unbelievable. They got bluefin, chuck full in their freezers, and everybody else has got their fill 'em. But it is coming up on New Year's, and for us Buddha heads, getting that sashimi on New Year's is a huge deal. So definitely be able to make a run out pretty soon.
When you
That's
say
the-
that, it's weird because my mother was of German ancestry.
yeah.
And she would always insist on New Year's Eve, you have to eat some kind of raw fish. A lot of times it was herring, like they did the herring.
Wow. Yeah.
And we used to eat that all the time. But it's funny, there's several different cultures that it sounds like want to have raw fish on New
There's
Year's
something
Eve. I don't
to
know if
it.
that's a New Year's Eve thing for Japanese culture or it's just
Oh
because
no,
you
no,
love
they have.
sashimi.
It's been
Like
period.
any day.
Any
right?
day. Yeah. But particularly on New Year's.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll
yeah,
see.
New Year's Day and
Yeah, it's weird.
Well,
So
we
I
have it
know.
on Christmas and stuff too. Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm going to do. We got a thing at school, and I'm doing that. I think we mentioned that yellowtail ceviche, which is it's morphed off of a raw dish. You take the yellowtail, cut it like sashimi. You got a pencil, folks? Write this down real quick. It's a quick one, but it's a killer. Any of you guys pull out some yellowtail out of your freezer and try this. You get the yellowtail loins, slice it sashimi style, okay? Then what I do is I'll take a little of the tahini, sprinkle it over the top, folks, okay? Then squeeze lime. So depending on how much you're doing, portions you got to buy accordingly, right? But squeeze lime over it very generously. Then tapatio all across the top, and I use a low sodium Kikkoman. Spread that on the top. So now you get in mix of Mexican and Japanese in there. So it's everything here in Southern Cal.
Fusion.
We're all fusion, baby.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Then you dice up some cilantro, dice up some red onions, and then I do serranos. If you don't want to kill people, take the seeds, slice it, core it till you take the seeds out. And if you got a lot of huevos, you can leave the seeds in there and burn up your mouth or whatever you might do. It depends. Might not be the mouth, but on one end or the other, you're gonna get fried and cooked. But anyway, you put the serranos on top, and then I just go get the good chips at. I go to it used to be called Numero Uno, now it's Superior, but they have the fresh, tortilla
Make the
chips,
homemade
the
tortilla
real
chip,
good ones,
yeah.
And you do it
Makes
like
a
that. And
difference.
this is something we learned at Bay of Los Angeles a couple of years ago when I was down with Steve. You told me down at Bay of LA, and I'll tell you, we've been serving it now, and just that will knock it out of the ballpark, folks. At any of your New Year's parties or Christmas parties, guarantee you, there will be nothing left. And as we speak tonight, I'm going to be pulling out some vacuum packed yellows for preparing for a school deal tomorrow. It's like a potluck deal.
Nice,
But
man.
It's a winner. It's a
Lucky
winner, folks.
kids tomorrow.
Yes. Well, no, it's the kids, it's
Oh, it's
teachers and aides and stuff.
Lucky
That's fun.
teachers.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a fun deal.
That's going to be great. All right. Michael Limon is there. You know Michael. He's such a great young man. And let's see. Good evening, Phil and Danny. This is Michael. Michael gave me this, Danny. I'll show you. Best friends forever the other day. That meant a lot to me.
He is such a great
Let me show
kid.
everybody out there.
Great kid.
Michael, thank you for that. I love you, and I'm so proud of all the progress you're making in school. Love your grandpa and you guys are awesome. Thank you for being a part of the Friedman Adventure family. Carlos Mosquera says, good evening, gentlemen. Good afternoon, gentlemen. He says he's eaten so much tuna this year that he thinks he's starting to grow fins. But he said the freezer's starting to look a little empty. Might be time to jump on a bluefin tuna trip, and that is for sure. The Freedom's leaving tonight, and I'm sure they're going to fish an island or rockfish. Jeff Jessup is going to run the boat. I mean, it's a beautiful afternoon down here at the landing, isn't it? With the Independence sitting right here. And,
yeah.
Man, it's
I'm
great.
getting pumped.
By the way, that April trip on the Independence that we're doing is April 4th through the 9th, 5 days. I think there's all kinds of possibilities there. Not only bluefin, but maybe sea bass, halibut.
I don't think anything's going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have good fishing year round,
Yeah, absolutely. Carlos Mosquera says Shogatsu.
Yes, New Year's,
Yep.
Japanese New Year's. You betcha, Carlos.
There you go,
We'll
Carlos.
be ready.
Carlos, by the way, I don't know why I didn't say you're a great guy. I love you, man. I miss you. Speaking of great guys, Travis Bright is another one who was with his lovely wife and daughter at the Christmas party.
Oh,
Cute little blonde girl.
awesome.
Because
Yes.
my wife,
Such
you
a great
know,
time.
Costa Rican woman, you know, I don't know. Every time she sees a blonde little girl, so she goes, "Oh, que lindo! You know how beautiful." She was talking about your daughter, Travis, and how beautiful she was. So good
That's
to see you.
awesome.
Travis fishes a lot of our trips, and yeah, I don't know what happened to him on that. He said, "I'm going to really have to work on convincing my wife on this 3-day trip." We turned it into a 5-day trip now. So good luck, Travis. We're hoping you can pull that one off. Hey, Dane is there
Better
with us.
options.
And he says, Oceanside welcomes Phil and Danny to the Oceanside Strand. So he must be watching us in Oceanside right now. How
Oh,
cool
love
is
it.
that?
Love it. Yep.
Thank
That
you,
is so
Dane.
cool.
We really appreciate it. Hey, one more thing I want to point out is
Yeah.
your hat. The Joe Miller knot. Man, Jeff and Joe Miller in Arkansas were so gracious and kind to both of us.
You know, Joe Miller and Joe. Hopefully, you might not be because the time's off, right?
No, they probably,
maybe
I
he's
mean, because
watching.
it's 7:00
Well,
in the
I'm going
evening
to tell
there.
you something.
They watch all the time.
Joe Miller. You talk about a student, one of the fishermen, one of the greatest fishermen you'll ever meet. Very humble man, but I mean, this Miller knot, he developed it. And I think I had mentioned it once before. We're going to do a 10-day goof off on the Cherokee Geisha. And thank you to all the friends and people that helped out and did stuff. Right. We get to Guadalupe and it's howling, and just to stay out of the wind. We sat in the lee for how many days waiting for, like, it was almost close to hurricane force winds. Poor Tommy Rother was out on the Supreme, at Aleos, hanging on for dear life during that period of time. It was brutal, but we were behind the lee, and we had a tough time. Now, throughout the evenings and everything, Joe would be there fiddling with knots, pulling, tying, breaking them, saying, "No, well, not so good, just by hand." He developed this Miller knot, and I'll have to show it to you one day. But it's like, you go through the eye twice, which I've always advocated. I like that. Then you do a figure eight, and I've always felt too with a figure eight that being a figure eight, it kind of helps alleviate. It doesn't cinch down and tighten. It's You got even pressure on both ends because of the
Right.
figure eight. But when we came back off this Guadalupe trip, we went over to Iser's place. We went over to Iser line, put it on a machine, and this thing broke unbelievable. And for a few years, I think that knot won. But that's the knot that I implemented exclusively, even when I'm trout fishing. But I used it for all my big bass that I caught, including the fish for the 19s and 18s. They were all Joe Miller knots. And so, it's not often you have people that are that dedicated just to do that.
Yeah,
And he
right.
would, after work, he would go in and I'd see him at Takas, and he'd still be playing with it. But, to have anglers like this, and it wasn't just, we were blessed to be around a lot of people like that. Corky Okoye, the Butch Browns. I mean, these people they're not great fishermen by luck, folks. These guys do their due diligence, they do homework, they want to improve and tweak and make everything better. And that's why we're blessed being around all these fishermen. It was an honor to fish with all these people over the years, Phil. It wasn't me. I was able to absorb that and see from all the greatness around us, you know, uh, Russ Iser, with Spectra, and he got slammed earlier, but I had faith in Russ, and as usual, he won out. Gary Loomis with Graphite. I worked very closely with a lot of guys like Toyo Shimano and Shimano in those early days, but now, we do stuff with Daiwa, but um, very blessed to be around the mainstream and the heart of what I figure is the center of where tackle is developed, and where it's tweaked. And if you look back even to what got everything going, and I've told the story before of how all we had were pen reels back in the old days with a plastic spool and a heavy metal spool that wouldn't cast. And then, Carl Newell, with the aluminum spool, changing the game, something that could fly line a bait, yet could hold the pressure and wouldn't spread like a plastic spool with pen. and then as everything elevated, um, it it was we were surrounded by fishermen that would not settle and would constantly tweak and improve, which led to the CNC fishing reels too and everything else. And so, being blessed being around that and being fortunate to have guys on my boat that would try new things and um, you know play with tackle, test tackle. I think I told the story about Jimmy Lou used to fish with me with two different groups every week, and his tackle box was on the starboard engine hatch, right? And I would go, I wouldn't even ask him. I'd go in there and I'd open it up, and he had a new bait or new contraption on the right corner of that tackle box every week. How many anglers are that astute and do that much? So we were blessed being around great people. And I credit them with what I've done too. Really, it's not me. It's been around all these great fishermen, being able to absorb. And that's what you guys are doing tonight. I mean, these things, if you could pick up stuff and put it into your fishing and help you, you're going to find it's going to build and build before you know it. It has to do with the mindset. It has to do with we don't know everything. But boy, if you can keep researching and tweaking and then find out for yourself what works best, you know. Um, I looked at little things like the homework that I was doing, watching videos, reading books, and then being fortunate enough to call directly and be in touch with like Doug Hannon, who was the bass professor down in Florida, and he was you know at one time probably the expert on big bass on lunker fish. But Doug, I kept calling him saying, "Why don't you come out to California and take you fishing?" But he would not. He said it was, the California fish was an anomaly. Well, maybe it was, because yeah, we did have the Florida bass, and they were eating the, the trout, to attain these massive size. But it also had to do not only with that, it had to do with it was the first cross, and this is something we probably didn't talk about enough, but it was a big thing. First cross between our California northern bass that we've had here all these years that came originally, I think, out of Illinois. And then with the mixing of the Florida bass, which were brought into San Diego lakes in the 1960s. Well, that first cross created this super bass, where this bass had the attributes of both the greatest attributes of the northern bass plus the Florida bass, you know. And the fact that, yeah, in the wintertime, California, most of these lakes were stocking trout. These things grew very big fast through that super protein that they got. But here's the deal, folks. And there's some guys that would catch them illegally, with rainbows. But you know what the problem is? You can't do that on TV. You can't do that. Being a captain on a boat, I knew exactly who they were. I had glasses, and I'm watching. And what's the other thing? These guys aren't casting, or they're looking around watching the other boats rather than where they're casting. You know, being a skipper, we
Dead
were pretty
giveaway.
astute as far as figuring out what was going on. These guys would keep their live trout in the water, and then when we're not looking, they'd cast, but we'd see them. They weren't that smart.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can't replicate it. Where with the crawdad method, you know, yeah, it implies that you're going to fish lighter line. It entails that, not implies, but it entails fishing lighter line. They do need that crawdad, especially the big females were the ones that we were chasing. For the real heavyweights. They needed the calcium and cholesterol from the crawdad for the egg development. So Mother Nature told them that, and they couldn't, as they started to grow big, they couldn't catch a free swimming trout anyway. So that's where we became very dangerous, you know. And the other thing was we had figured out that there was current in the lakes, and not many people had any clue as to how to deal with current in these lakes. And unless you're holding constant with the two anchors, you can't tell. If you're drifting around on trolling motor, you can't tell which way the current's going. So, right, when we're out that Cortez Bank, folks, what do we fish, the leading edge? You have to be on the right edge of the bank, otherwise you're out in left field, and you can sit it all you want, but if the current's going the wrong way, you're not going to get them. So it's implementing that knowledge on the lakes with everything else we know. It took lighter line, sharper hooks, Joe Miller knots that produced. I was using 10-pound Trilene XD, and I was camouflaging it the way that Doug Hannon taught me to do it with a mark slot. You put the hook back to the reel from the tip. So you basically have about 10, 12 feet of line, and you pinch it together and you do a gradient of about 2 inches of green, clear, 2 inches clear, 2 inches green, mark it all the way up the tip. So basically now you got 10 feet of camouflage line. And I proved that to myself by going into a pool with the clear line, and lo and behold, you see this track of light going down that it's a fiber optic transmits down the line. So they see the light more so than the line. And then I went in after I marked it with the marks line. I go, holy smokes, you couldn't see it.
Wow.
So
You feel like that made a huge difference?
oh, I mean,
Huge.
I'm guaranteed it made a huge
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Um, and so all these little tricks by learning these things, and that was from studying, and that one actually came directly from Doug Hannon. I would talk to Doug about different things. I would talk to him about some of the idiosyncrasies between the California fish and the Florida fish. I was just surprised that he would never come out and fish California because I invited him many times. But he said, well, it was just an anomaly. It may be, but it was at that time we created, the biggest bass in the world.
Yeah.
So it was a different understanding. I thought that he would be, interested in seeing that. It may be different, but it's still, largemouth bass. But yeah, it took a lot of homework, and it was the networking of a lot of great friends that I make my calls to every night. Taka, Corky Yokoi, Glenn Merck, all my friends that I bass fish with over the years, um, and you know the information going back and forth with guys that were on the lake. So if you weren't there that day, they would fill you in. They bit which way was the current going, this that, and so having your great nucleus of friends had a lot to play with it too. I give them the assist on all those fish, you know. Um, and I mentioned some of those stories before. Snowing up in Castaic, and those fish were going off in 1989, and uh, I-5 was closed at the Grapevine, so I called. The lake was open. There was only two bass boats on the lake, myself and Taka Tanaka. And so, pressure has a lot to do with it too. When you don't have the pressure on the lake, you fish a lot of spots. The fish are pressure sensitive. So when you get a lot of boat pressure on it, they're not going to bite the same way. So there's a lot of little different factors that you got to, you know, implement, and you figure out, and it keeps piling up into that little computer up here. And when you recognize different factors, and different idiosyncrasies, when everything lines up just right, there's no guarantees. I mean, you could have all the factors, the current going right and everything else, maybe your water temp, everything lined up, and they don't bite. And that's fishing, folks.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
the neat part was that little crawdad you threw. If you threw them out there, if there was a fish there, and if that fish was ready to bite, they would respond. They would have that panic thump, just like a mackerel. Fire it out there, and he's just hauls. Guess what? You watch that. You watch your spools. It's peeling out, and all of a sudden it is, boom. You know, so they respond the same way, to the stimulus of the live baits reaction to them as they approach. So, it's a great learning curve, and it never stops. That's the beauty of the whole deal, you know.
All right. Hey, and we send Joe Miller and his nephew Jeff all our thanks for a Merry Christmas. All right, Danny, for all the
Absolutely. You know
hats.
what? And
Thank you.
those fish wouldn't have hit my deck if it weren't for Joe's knot. But to watch how the dedication Joe had on that trip where we got blown in and go out to come up with that knot. And to me, it was the greatest knot I've ever seen, period. I still use it. That's all I use. I use it on our tuna trips, when we're out at Cortez. I've used it on my long range trips. So Joe, thank you so much. He sent these hats in a box, and it said the first thing I saw was, I think it was Mountain Home, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And I go, oh my God, that's where my Champion bass boat was built.
Really?
Yeah, Rick Grover had, he had the Champion dealership, but it was Mountain Home, and I'm thinking, I wonder if Champion sent something, and it was Joe. you know.
Oh my
But
God. Yeah, it's so nice of him.
yes.
Great Christmas
Oh,
present.
unbelievable. But, you know, again, you don't get anglers as dedicated as Joe, where he's sitting there in the galley the whole trip doing
Yeah.
that. And we put it on a test. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the greatest fishing rod ever for me personally. You know, and I still use it. I guess at a comfort level, but it's also because when we put it on the machines, it broke the highest, you know. And, you know, I've got the fish to show for it too. So, and I thank Joe for that. You know, we had we do as all fishermen. I don't think we ever laughed more. His nickname was Black Cloud, and certainly that trip at Guadalupe, Joe, you're at your finest. That's it.
And hey, in case you're a novice angler, a black cloud simply means that when you show up on the boat, the fish do not bite. Right, Danny?
Yeah, yeah, you get the weather. I mean, well, we got that too.
That's great. Thank you, Joe. Always good. And he watches every show, so it's great to have Joe on board with us.
None better than Joe, I'll tell you.
Travis Bright. Now, I just mentioned him, Danny. He was trying to talk his wife into the 3-day trip on the Independence. Now we've changed it to a 5-day, and he said, there's no chance. I can't do it. Is there any advice you can give this man how to talk his wife into it? Flowers,
Okay.
a bigger Christmas present.
Yeah.
Well, look at him. Tell
all
him.
all that.
Anything else?
All that, whatever it takes.
Do you get on
But
your
you know-
hands and knees and beg?
You could do that, you know. The
You
neat
listening,
part,
Travis?
The neat part, Travis, is that the diversity of fish too. Now I got to tell you something, Travis. Here, and it's for all you guys. You know, when you come back with all these fish. We were recently invited to another Andy Matsuda deal.
Yeah.
You know, every time he
Did
graduates.
I screw that
trips-
up?
Oh no! I couldn't do it. But I mean,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But you know, you guys are. It's just amazing what we can do with the fish. So, like Travis, you know, the kind of diversity of fish, you could do what I just told you with a yellowtail. Here's that yellowtail ceviche. You know, that's you know, morphed between Japanese and down in Mexico where they developed that. Or, you know, these sushi dishes are just sashimi with you know, bluefin or seared bluefin. And I mean, that's how we got my kids to eat it. They wouldn't eat it raw, but man, you put a little furikake on it and sear it a little bit on each side, and they went nuts. So there's a lot you can do, and the best part is the wife throws a sushi party or whatever, and she becomes the hit, not you. Oh, no, you're credited with the assist.
A little bit.
You get the assist.
Yeah.
Right. But you know what? Before you know it, she'll go, hey, you need to go catch us some fish. We got a party coming on. You know, she'll have the bragging rights to all that. So that's always a great deal. Yeah.
All right. That sounds good. Jeff Yeomans is back. He says, is there a place near the landing for a surface iron casting practice? How's this park across the street? Have you ever gone over there?
No.
And looked at it? I haven't
No.
either.
Yeah.
It might work, Jeff.
yeah,
I don't know.
because
I'll
it
go
was,
look at
yeah.
it for you.
Yeah.
We'll
yeah.
check it out and see whether or not that's a place where you could do it. Other than that, I don't know. We'll look into it.
You just want to make sure you got the wind, you know, like here at 22nd Street, you probably want to be on the west side because in the afternoon when you get that west
Yeah.
breeze, you definitely don't want to throw into it, you know. I mean, in some respects, it's kind of it's good practice. And I've done that where I've thrown into the wind intentionally to take a lower trajectory, and your timing's a little different. But yeah, it's good to learn how to cast under all those conditions. You know, obviously you want the wind at your back. You know, you get the extra. But there's times when it pays to have that. You know, you can punch into the wind, and you know it has to do with keeping the trajectory lower. You'll get more distance. You know.
All right, perfect.
go.
Good stuff. Let's see. Halibut Man wants to know if we're in Carson or at 22nd Street. He was thinking of stopping by. We are at 22nd Street Landing in beautiful San Pedro
22nd
or
Street,
Pedro,
baby.
California, however you want to. I get chewed out all the time when I say San Pedro. Sometimes I look at,
Yeah, we
you know,
go
my brain
Pedro.
clicks over into Spanish.
Yeah.
I'm reading
Yeah,
San Pedro. So,
Yeah.
Hey, it's San
That'd be
Pedro.
if you were down, probably if you're south of the border. Pedro would be
Yeah,
another
right,
safer bet.
exactly.
Pedro up here.
San Pedro, whatever you want me to say, I will say it. All right. Dane says, small green crawdads were my secret ticket for steelhead on the American River.
Oh, that's awesome. That'd be right up my alley.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
would. Does that sound like fun to you?
Steelhead fishing is such a blast.
Uh-huh.
It is such a blast. There's, trout on steroids. They've gone to sea, but not only that, they're excellent. They're more like a salmon when you eat them too. So it's got some great attributes, but it's fun and it's really fun to fish. You know, and they fight, they jump. Yeah, it's a kick.
All right, I know we're trying to get to your story, but we have too many people who are watching and enjoying this. Hey,
Not a problem.
hit that like button, everybody. We're up to almost 20 likes now. It doesn't show up there, but it does here. I can see it.
Yeah, no
If you
sweat.
don't mind, hit that like
No.
button. Danny's doing another great show. I'm totally enjoying it. And Richie Rich says, Phil and Danny, my heroes. And we can't thank you enough. Rich, I know I speak for Danny. You are our heroes because you're on the show. You support us.
Absolutely.
We really, really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Richie Rich, you're number one. So Greg Bates, who's a great Friedman Adventures family member, always there when we need him. He says, Travis, I have an elf, or let's say, I have the elf write you, I'll have the elf write you a permission slip for Mrs. Travis. I have met her. She seems very reasonable. So maybe the elf, you've seen that demented elf at our Christmas parties.
Yeah. We'll have to get them to.
I saw. Were you reaching for your pepper spray when you saw or no? You went right to the pistol, right? Yeah, skipped right over the pepper spray.
That was
for
a
the
great
firearm.
time. That was a great time. Yeah,
it wasn't. Greg was what an elf.
Yeah,
he's
Greg
great.
Was perfect. He was perfect. They don't get any better.
I love it. Hey, you might want to take him up on that, Travis. Ernie Montano is another great Friedman Adventures family member. Was on our 5-day trip on the Independence. Very supportive of everything we do. Ernie, it's great to see you. Phil and Danny, thanks so much for entertaining us fishermen.
Absolutely awesome, Ernie. Now, I'm going to get into something. You might or might not know, but all of us are dealing with this in our lives today via our country and everything else. But there's a lot of politics, and what gets me was even in fishing, there was political things and the things that were corrupt.
We don't want politics in fishing.
We don't want politics. I'm going
to
give you a story that you're not going to believe. It's a true story, but
this is going to be good.
Unbelievable what they put me through. So it was in 1980, 89, or it may have been the end of 88. And we're catching all these nice fish, and I was blessed to be in that period of time and time frame when I was fishing very hard, still on the boat. And Corky Yokoi calls me in December. He had taken his son Kyle, fishing at Castaic, and they got into some nice fish where it transitioned from the shad bite, which these guys would get them on the spoons, and they were getting some 10-pounders on the spoon. But they were getting them on the crawdads. Well, you know what? When you get them on the crawdads, it's go time. It's on. It's on. So we decided, we're going to get ready. I've always had my crawdads curing, for a while now. And anytime from, January to February, I always kept 100 dozen crawdads, ready to go at any time. So I called Taka, and Marty, his son, was one of my second tickets on the Mustang. So Marty fished with me. A good friend of mine, Calvin, fished with Taka. And incidentally, Calvin Connemara was also a friend that I fished in high school. We went to high school with. He just recently passed away. So I just want to say sorry if Jennifer and the family's watching, but I just found out about that last week. But anyway, so Calvin was fishing with Taka. So we get up to, I call Castaic. I said, "You're going to be open?" And they go, "Yeah." I says, "Well, is the road open to lake?" Because on the news, the lake is closed. I mean, the freeway shut down at Lake Hughes. There was no traffic going up the Grapevine because of the snow. So they said, "No, it's open." I called the lake, and I called, the Highway Patrol. And they said, "Yeah, it's open." Go in. I said, "So Parker Road's open, so you can go in the back way." So we did. Well, there was 4 boats. But we were the only 2 bass boats, and there are 2 other boats on the lake. So imagine we had Castaic in its peak with just Taka and I.
Wow.
What
an opportunity.
Unbelievable. So we get up. It's freezing. You could see it was bundled. I had ski gear on, full face mask for when you're running because it's freezing when you're going at 70 miles an hour, right? And so first spot we anchor up on, Marty and I, we anchor down. First cast, I get bit. I stick it. This thing just walks and then unbuttons. And the way it walks slow and steady like that. Marty says, it looks like a good one. I go, yeah, I think it was a nice one, you know. Well, anyway, we picked away. We caught a bunch of nice fish, probably 4 to 7 pounds. And at about noon, we run back and Taka's back on Taka's Rock in Elizabeth. And that was one of the best spots on the lake because he found that spot. Happens to be, and this is a key thing for any of you bass fishermen. Anytime you can find a lake where there is current, determining where the current is, if the current splits at a particular place, there's a spot like this at Casitas too, where I used to, Sanson for that's I hooked the fish with Corky, the same deal. It was on the spot where the current came into this one point and it split two ways. Okay, well, this happened to be the same thing at Taka's Rock, and that was a key element, I think, in
How do you
in that
fish
particular
that?
spot. Well, you fish. We fish right out in front. So I mean, if you tore it out, it could come down the point this way. It could come down this other
Oh,
way.
yeah.
But it's you know
Yeah.
the
All the
bigger
bass are
fish.
back there waiting for
Well,
it.
not just all of them. It was the bigger fish
Okay.
were stratified there.
Yeah.
And if you, it's like anything else. The bully on the block, the bigger fish. You know, generally it's going to be first cast, and they're boom
Yeah.
because they have they're
Don't give my
they're the
way.
king. Well, and then
Yeah.
we did that. We studied bass in the tank at Taka's house. We had little bass that we caught on the flies at Alondra Park. Put them in there. We'd study it, and you'd see one dominant fish sitting like this, and he was usually a little bigger because he ate first, and he ate till he was full, and then the others would. But they'd have their heads down. There could be about 5, 6 of them with their heads down. So it was, the amount of studying that we did on these
Yeah.
things to
Yeah. You
figure
put a
this
lot of
out.
work into
Yeah.
this.
And so anyway, yeah, generally most of those big fish were always on my first cast, because I think there's a hierarchy and they get to eat first. But it's also on those spots where the current was split like that. And so anyway, Taka had he had more fish, all about the same size, but he had more fish than we did. And so we met with them, and met them after lunch, and they shut down the lake pretty early on those days because the sun's down at 5 anyway, And I told him, I says, hey, I think I dumped a good fish back there on the high spot there, on the tree on the high spot. And he goes, yeah, right. And then Marty said, no, it looked like a good. It stopped the tip and it walked off slow. So it's getting, probably about 2 something. They're going to kick us off the lake in about an hour or so anyway, because we're the only two on the lake now. So we run back to that spot. I straddle it, trees right in the middle. Marty's in the bow. He goes down the left side of the tree. I cast out down the right side of the tree. Well, Marty gets bit right away and gets a good, nice 8 pounder, something like that, first cast. And so I run over and I net his fish and I walk back to my rod. I pick it up. The credit starts jumping and boom, I stick it and the rod tip stops. And it's just one of these moving off slowly. So I think this is a good fish. So it's kind of going toward the tree where the tripod is right here on this, and I'm leveraging it, pulling, and it kind of veers around, starts going under my bow anchor, comes under the boat. Now, mind you, we're only sitting at about 12 feet, casting out to 18 feet, and he starts coming. It's down into the water almost. I said, Marty, get the net ready. It's coming right up. It's coming under the boat, and he nets it and goes, oh, and he says a word. We're not
Expletive
gonna, yeah,
deleted.
yeah. And then I matched him when I saw it. I said, "Is it catfish?" He goes,
It
no,
must have been huge because I
no, it
rarely
was
hear you
that.
swear, by the way.
That was in 1904. Yeah,
Wow.
and that
19 pounds.
So what was really funny was thanks to Corky Yokoi, I was entered in this Big Bass World Championship of Bass and Magazine.
And this fish qualified for that?
Oh well, yeah. I entered. It was from January. The contest was from from January of '89 to December of 1989. So
Was it national
year-long
or-
national contest?
Oh, wow.
Bass and Magazine, right? So I sent it off in December. So I'm going, oh my God, I got to be up there pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So mind you, time passes, and of course the word went out about this fish, and
Did you send all the details?
oh yeah.
So what'd you have to send? Photos and
Photos, we had the certified weights, pictures,
Yeah.
everything, And I get this letter back from Bassett Magazine And it said, sorry, we had the postmaster severed the application and we can't count this fish for the contest.
You
And
mean not resubmit the application, or just you're
no,
out?
no. He says, you're out. And I'm going, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, number one, it was a week and a half, 2 weeks after I caught this fish and I get this back. And I sent that application away weeks before. So I'm thinking, you got talk about something fishy.
Yeah.
This was
No
fishy,
pun intended.
right? Yeah.
So what
But
kind of money are we vying
it was
for here?
$50,000.
50 grand.
50 grand.
So when they told you
I
your
said, "You have
application
got
is
to
gone,
be
we're
kidding."
talking 50 G's.
Yeah, and I was possessed at that point.
Are you kidding?
I was
Yeah.
ticked. Yeah.
Of course, right?
And I was also suspect. And now that I see what's going on in our government now, I don't even have a shadow of a doubt what actually happened, because I don't give the post office or any agency credibility now that I see what's going on with our government.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of these institutions that are polluted, which, it's a shame. It's a shame. So I was on a mission. Of course, we go through the year, run the sport boats, I'm running
So
the
you're
boat,
really
running
busy.
the Mustang. Yeah.
But you're trying to keep
And then
your eye on
the
this.
bite starts early again that year in December. And I went out.
So
and,
did you just accept the fact that you were out?
well, I
or-
fished a lot during that year, and
Yeah.
I ended up catching a lot of fish prior to going down to San Diego and running the Mustang.
Yeah.
But whenever I could during the week, we're fishing a lot during the week and catching a lot of 10s, stuff like,
Yeah,
10s,
yeah.
12s, maybe, a lot of 12s and stuff like that. But in December, that bite started again. And it's immediately one of those things, they switch over into that crawdad bite is where the game's on, because now they're eating the crawdads for the calcium and cholesterol for their egg development on the fish. That's where you get those big fish. And we go on. I'm fishing with a good friend, Glenn Murakami, and first spot we fish is a spot called the Razor, and Glenn gets a 10 right off the bat. A 10, a 8, a 6 something. He is flat out kicking my behind. I think I got a 1.5 pound fish and maybe a 2 pounder, and he had all these bigger fish, right? So I'm going, well, Glenn, this is your day, And as time went, we made a move, and I think the next one was out to the high spot out by the old Blank House Outhouse Cove, we called it, and there was a high spot out there, and we're anchored up. Glenn got the sandwiches out that he picked up, and we're eating our sandwiches. And once we're done, we throw the crawdads out, and the crawdad out, and he's just sitting there. I pick it up, it starts jumping around, and I get bit. I drop it, boom, and I got a 15, 12. And
Nice fish.
yeah, it was. Put that in the well. We made a move to a place we called the it was a fire trail that came down. He fished the bearings, put the bearings on it. It straddled that. As you fished outside, there was an outside spot with a little hook into it. And first cast there, I got a 13 something.
Damn.
And so here's Glenn's kicking my behind, unbelievable. And in 2 casts, I lucked out. But that fish ended up, after we submitted it again,
The
taking first
15
place.
pounder.
I beat a guy out in Texas that had a 14 something, and I ended up winning with that. But it was kind of a bogus thing, because then they were saying, well, we're going to do payments and do this and do that. And I went, oh no, you're not. That's not what this. I had to get a lawyer involved. They took them, they finally conceded, to make the payment. Went to New Orleans, got one of these big phony, these checks that they dummy up for magazines,
Yeah.
for the pictures. But it was Bassin Magazine. But
Are they still in existence?
they exist, but I don't think they have the readership or anything.
Yeah.
And so then the next year they changed the format. Instead of, it was called the Big Bass World Championship. But, going into this, how smart is it when you know that the reality is there's California, Florida, and Texas are your players, that odds are those are the states that you got the chance of winning this particular contest, right? But you got 47 other states, or 46, because Alaska doesn't have bass. 46 other states that you don't have a chance really.
Yeah.
You don't have an honest chance with it, you know. And so what they did was they changed the format to now they would have a contest. Okay, you had the winners of the 50 states, and then they would do a contest at a bass lake, you know, to see who would win. So it's not, you know, they still called it the Big Bass World Championship, but it really wasn't, you know. Uh, but they should have thought about a lot of that beforehand. But I didn't get involved with them because we ended up they reneged on the money, and we had to get an attorney involved to get the money from them, you know.
What a story.
So
First of
it was
all, you have
no,
a
so
19-pound fish
yeah,
that they
that then
disqualified.
disqualified.
Then you don't give up. You go out and you do it again,
Phil,
which is like lightning striking twice
the
in
guys
the
that
same
know
spot.
me know when I get possessed on my
You're
fishing.
very competitive.
I'm very
SP
competitive.
Demers, LA Kings trainer.
Exactly. And that's why it was perfect when Pete and I used to fish together too. I mean, because there was the only problem is then you overfish too.
I know.
You know?
Yeah, I've
But
been there, done
Yeah.
that.
But yeah. See, it takes
What a
guys like
story.
that we all fish with that tuna keep you on edge. And in California, there's so many great fishermen, you know. Especially these guys that are going down there and catch the big tuna, you know, the Uridomos, the Bobby Gonzalez. I mean, there's such a big network of these guys that are phenomenal fishermen. I couldn't touch them if you wanted. These guys have it so dialed in, it's unreal.
That is
But
a great story.
But that's what it takes.
You got your
you know?
50 grand though?
Yeah, finally through the attorney, you know, having hired an attorney because you know it was really hokey. And so I didn't
Sure
even bother
sounds like
entering
it.
the second year. I said, you know, forget it. And thank God they changed the format, you know. But yeah, so when we look at the government colluding with the you know, the post office colluding with a magazine and stuff like that on these, you know, and I look back at what's going on now, are we surprised? Not anymore, folks. I got to tell you, very disappointed. I was disenchanted then, and I see what's going on in our government now. And same thing, I'm sure the rest of you out there are seeing what's going on too. You know, so you know, it took a lot of that shying off what I at one time respected. You know, so there's my political deal for the day, Phil.
That's mixed in with a fish story. All right. Hey, Jeremy says, good evening, Phil, Danny, and Friedman Adventures family. Is it the weekend yet? Close, but not yet. Tim Marquez is a special human being. I'm telling you right now. I mean that sincerely. Tim didn't pay me any money to say this. He's really good. Danny, when we're separating clothing, he comes down and donates time.
That's awesome.
He's always looking to donate and help out. He's a great guy. It's his
daughter's
birthday
so is
today.
mine. Yeah, Alexa's
Yeah, he
birthday
knows. That's
today.
why he's saying that.
She and her fiance are in Vegas right now. You know, yeah.
Tim, give her a big hug
December
for
14th.
Danny
Awesome.
and I.
Tell
And
her
a happy birthday.
That's awesome.
You're going to have to get your two daughters together to celebrate
there
some
you
year.
Go. Well, Alexa's one of my fishing partners now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, she's tough.
Tim, thanks for sharing that. Hey, Dan Smith, remember I started the show by mentioning that Kim was having surgery? We mentioned Kim on the morning briefing today. We mentioned her already tonight. Hope she pulled through. Hello, Captain Danny, Phil, and all you great folks. Danny, we watched that show with Dan Hernandez on the Mustang with you and Gary Loomis. You on the fly rod. Love it. And the lift pole stuff was so cool. All our best to Kim. You know, he's not the only guy who's told me that. Somebody else sent me a link to that video, and they just said it was a great episode.
You know, to be honest with you, folks, it's a simple deal. When it's a wide open bite, you know, and I recognize that too. You know, we had the fly rod. That's why I grabbed it. You know, but when they're eating a lift pole, basically it's telling you they're going to eat anything. You know, so you know, I happen to be, you know, just do a roll cast and a strip, and bingo, I'm on. You know, it's no big deal. But it, you know, to go from the span of a lift pole, because they went nuts. I had to, you know, we had to take it away from them. Those guys were going a little crazy. I mean, they're throwing the fish, they're going in the bait tank and everything. You know, they really didn't know how to lift it. But if you've never done that, it's mano a mano with a lift pole, you, a hook, and the fish, and it's addicting. So to go from the span of, you know, rod and reeling them to a lift pole and then a fly rod, we hit that span. And that,
wow.
I don't know that that's been done too many places.
Probably
I mean,
not.
in my head, that's what I wanted to do. I'm going, you know, but it's when it's that wide open, if you have the fly rod, yeah, it's easy. It's not a big deal. It's
It's like
as long as you don't have fish,
like a
yeah.
feather going through the water,
Yeah,
right? They're
oh
gonna
yeah.
bite that thing.
First strip, and it's just and
How
it's
cool is that,
yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Don't have to put a bait on it and fake it or anything
Nope,
else,
nope,
right?
nope. So it was fun. It was fun because we went to host band. Gary told that story about on that trip where we had a prototype rod and it broke. Well, of course, he doesn't want this prototype showing, that still had G Loomis on it. They put a sticker on it, but it wasn't even, it wasn't finished like our normal rods. And so it was funny, true story, guys. If you heard it last week, I'm just gonna reiterate, what happened. So we have this broken rod. It's a musky rod, and we're smoke testing it. Well, it broke. We handed it off. A lot of people were using it, so who knows whether they're high sticking or whatever. But it blew. So Gary I said, "What do you want to do with this?" He takes it to rubber bands. He throws it over. Oh, we're 70 miles out at sea, folks. Get back San Diego, come back up here. He flies home. About a day later, maybe even 2 days later, that rod shows up in Woodland, Washington. And the guy wanted a warranty on this rod, so he calls me. He says, uh, "We got a warranty down from your area." He says, "We got to have a problem." I says, "Oh, what's the problem?" He says, "It was a rod that we threw over 70 miles at sea." "You got to be kidding! Number one, what are the odds of getting it out in the middle of the ocean,
Yeah,
70 miles
right.
offshore,
Somebody finding
and
it.
then to get it and rush it up to Woodland, Washington,
That's
right?"
crazy.
So he
Yeah.
says, "So what do you want to do?" He says, "You want to handle it?" I says, "Yeah, I'll handle it." So he gives me the number. I talk to the guy. He says, "Hey, I heard you broke a rod. I heard you broke one of the Loomis rods." He says, "Yeah, yeah, I was fighting a fish, fighting a tuna with it, and it blew." I says, "Really?" I was standing right next to that rod when it blew up. He says, uh, "You were?" I said, "Yeah, I was." He goes, "Nice try, huh?" I says, "Yeah, nice try." But I mean, what a to have
That's amazing.
that
That unfold like that.
guarantee,
Yeah.
and to have that a
Crazy.
lifetime guarantee, is pretty strong. But I mean, it does have to be with a model that is on your finish line, not a prototype, folks. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
anyway, but it was a funny story, true story too.
That's a
Yeah.
great one. Hey,
Yeah.
hit that like button out there, everybody. Please make sure you subscribe to Friedman Adventures. Tick the bell. You'll be notified when there's new content. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Dan says Kim is resting, got her eyelid surgery, was good. I have the volume up so Kim can listen. So both Danny
Ah,
and I
great.
send our love and our
Well, Kim,
best.
yes, heal up. God be with you, and and glad everything went well.
Yeah,
That's
me
what he
too.
says.
Me
Yeah,
too. And don't
that's
miss the
awesome.
morning briefing. I mentioned you on there also, Kim. And I threw you a bone too, Dan. So there you go. Got both of you. Yeah, that Gary Loomis, just to go back to it one more time again, some of the stories he told, like that crocodiles and
Oh,
saltwater crocodiles. I know all about saltwater
oh yeah,
crocodiles living in Costa
oh yeah,
Rica.
yeah.
There was a river called Rio Tqckle, and you could hardly go over there on any day and not see some woman throwing flowers out. One of her family members got snatched
Oh
up
yeah,
by a
yeah,
saltwater
yeah,
crocodile.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they're
That's
nasty.
serious deal. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
You don't mess. And he's had the blessing of fishing all over the world. But he asked me. He was one of the first guys to start a camp in Russia, up on the Ponoy Peninsula. It
God, that sounds
used to be
fascinating.
a military, area up toward Murmansk, and he opened the first fishing camp up there. Well, it was so wide open.
Did you
Atlantic
go there?
salmon. No, well, I was going to until this is part of the story, Phil.
So what year would this have been like?
Maybe late 80s,
Okay.
around
Okay.
that time,
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, you want to go?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to go." Showing me this album, so I'm going to the album, and you know, these beautiful. I mean, I can't. They couldn't even keep count of how many fish they'd hook a day because it was closed off as a military area, so it was never really fished. So it's just wide open. But we're going through this thing, and I'm looking through the album, and I see a crashed helicopter, Aeroflot helicopter, and Russia had just switched over. Everything had changed over there. They opened a lot of the places up to travel, and this happened to be one of them. And so I see this crashed Aeroflot helicopter, and I go, "Oh." What's with this? He goes, oh, they're held together with duct tape and rubber bands. I go, yeah, right. So I'm flipping through and I see another helicopter. It's not the same helicopter that I saw in the album. I said, well, what's that? It says, hey, I told you it held together with duct tape and and super glue and whatnot. I said, well, you know
You
what?
start getting nervous.
I think I'm going to pass on this trip. Now, mind you, he says, come on, I'll take it. Don't worry. I said, no, I'm going to pass.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass. I kind of wish I went.
Yeah, right.
We forget what we have here in this country.
Oh my
folks.
God. Yeah.
What they had to do was because in Russia, you're limited on everything. You don't have grocery stores like we do. You'll see a lion at a store, and Gary will go, "What's that for?" Pliers. Oh, well, what kind of pliers? Diagonal cutters, this, that. He says, "No, just pliers." Could be a mix of everything. So they don't have the volume nor the variety of what we're used to. We're very spoiled here, folks. So he got together with this guy named Andre, and Andre ended up sourcing a lot of stuff. But what they did was they had to put everything in containers from here, building materials and everything, and ship it up there. And that's how they ended up building their camp. So as a thank you, Andre did Gary brought Andre over to the U.S. and took him to the little town of Woodland, Washington, which is north of Portland, but it's a small town. And he took Andre. He stayed in the lodge where I was staying, those months there when I'm up there, and he takes Andre into town to just a regular supermarket, not the big Vons or anything, just a regular supermarket. And Andre, he says, "Get whatever you want." And Andre looks and goes, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah, get whatever you want."
Right to the vodka section.
Yeah.
No.
Oh no, well, they do drink a lot of vodka.
I know they do.
I mean, and that's all there is,
Yeah.
But he says, "Gary, what is this? American propaganda?" He goes, "What are you talking about? This is not even a big store, But it has, bakery and has all this stuff. It's a nice store. They have a Vons in town real close by there too. But so Andre's thinking this is American propaganda. He says, "Okay, I'm going to fix them." So he says, "Get in the car." He takes him into Portland, pulls up to Costco.
Oh my God.
Right? This is a true story. Andre gets to the front door of Costco, looks up, sees the pallets of merchandise stacked to the ceiling, on those huge metal racks, and he threw up. He was so upset. And he's going, "What was my country thinking, waging war with you, you know?" And so, it was fun. And we got to be friends. He gave me a shirt with the Russian fly fishing thing on it, but we're really blessed
Oh yeah.
with what we have.
Yep.
And we take it for granted. Although, depending on the administrations, we do go up and down. But you look overall, you know, we have a pretty good thing going in this country, folks, and we should embrace it. But we all know we need some help, and we can make things better than what it is now. But just as a comparison, we are spoiled. We are spoiled.
Oh,
we
heck
live
yeah.
a good life. So, we just got to count our blessings, folks. Go out there, go
Absolutely.
fish, enjoy it. But through these experiences too, you learn to appreciate what we have. You really do.
When I went to Costa Rica as an 18, 19-year-old kid, I forget
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah.
I was going down there to work in the missions, Catholic missions, and I swear to God, I got on a plane. We flew into San Jose, so out of LA, you're on a.
Yeah.
But when you get on the plane to Golfito, I couldn't believe it, man. I looked between my legs and there's a hole, and I could see down. Like, so when we're laying there, I'm looking at the rainforest, right? There's a hole between my legs.
Was that the restroom too?
Nice. Yeah, and the cockpit door to the cockpit is flopping back and forth, and some really beautiful senorita is chatting up the captain, and he's kind of leaning back, and I'm like, yeah, hey, buddy, maybe I ought to be watching, like flying the plane. He's chatting up the stewardess, and that's part of the charm of it. It's why I like it, but.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Well,
it was so cool. It was funny, man. But I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. When down in Brazil, going into the jungle too, all you see is green. And that's why when I was down there, I go down with like Jeff Sakuda, and we've had Jeff on the show before. and he's used to flying 57s and 60s, captain on 57s and 67s. He flies both. But that's why the first thing is I says, you're up there with the pilot.
Yeah, right.
We'll all sit back here, but you're up there with the pilot. And he'd let him drive too. He'd let him fly it. And it was fun too, going over that.
I taught with a lot of Russians in China. There's a lot of Russians there teaching. So all the Russians I met were all good, good people and seemed like nice people. But,
yeah.
They've got a government that's not all that great.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
same thing with China where I was, that government is horrible.
We, as Americans, we're spoiled.
Yeah.
We take a lot for granted. But like he said, when you go into the store, they're giving out pliers. Well, what kind of pliers? Well, you have diagonal cutters, you have needle nose, and that's what it was. You didn't get a choice. We look at it like, oh, what good is that? But we're looking for a specific, style of plier for a specific use. Well, over there,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very blessed being here.
By the way, I may end up going to hell when I finally die because one thing I did do is I put a water pistol in Father Ignatius's luggage, so he got stopped when he tried to throw that.
A plastic one?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
He's ready to kill me because I opened his luggage and like they were all.
Oh, geez. It's something we do to our good
Father
friends,
Ignacio, please excuse me. He's
Mm.
going to send down a lightning bolt
Oh, my
and
God.
nail me. Father Ignatius was a great guy. I had so much fun with him that it was unbelievable.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I couldn't resist that one. We when I met my wife, we were at her brother's place too once.
Uh-huh.
Danny, you talk about like how like a living room in someone's house could be totally different. He lived in a finca on a farm. And we would go out for a walk and there's monkeys and it was just unbelievable. So I had a rubber snake. And Ruth's brother, Christian, who passed away from brain cancer, and so many of you out there helped during that time. It was a very difficult time for all of us, but we had a rubber snake and Christian put this frickin' fishing line on it that I had. And her brother is sitting in the living room and that snake goes by him. Danny, I didn't even see it. He had a machete out so fast and chopped that thing in half. He's was ready for that, if you know what I mean. And it was great, man. It was too funny. Let's see, before we get too far behind, Daniel Sansi says, hello to everybody. Acme. Hey, Danny, I'm down here at Lake Martinez. They've been eating the boy howdy real good in the afternoon. Come on down.
We used to fish. That's down to the Colorado River, right? Down that way?
I think so, yeah.
I used to go to the Wayne's Tackle, Wayne Kennedy and Tommy Kennedy. I used to fish with them, and Talk and I, we'd go down to the river. And we do the night fishing, in the late spring, and you fish all night, and then you sleep during the day. But yeah, that fishing was fun. Plastic worm fishing and stuff. But what a blast. What a blast. Good fishing down there.
Dan Smith sends all his love. It sounds like Kim's doing okay. We're happy about that. Blue skies. I can't live in another country where you can't drink from the shower, kitchen faucet, or water hose. Yeah, there's, like you say, we're very blessed there.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in Brazil,
oh, yeah, you got to be careful.
They had trapped rainwater is what we generally used, and they had some filtering system through it too. Unfortunately, we didn't. We were fine.
Yeah,
we're fine. I think they do implement halazone or something, to treat the water with too. But yeah, and it's not for us. It's for us. Excuse me. The locals can drink that anywhere, any of that water right out of the river because they got that immunity to it. Yeah, but they have parasites and things like that that we can't handle. Yeah.
My brother and I got dysentery so bad in Acapulco. We were staying with the bishop of he was part of the Parroquia de Costa Azul, that parish, and we were staying there. I forget how we got in there, and we were drinking water out of the faucet and everything else. By the way, the bishop wasn't too happy that we invited a couple of the senoritas from town to come up and play. The one girl was playing a guitar, and the bishop I don't think actually came, but he sent a priest and he goes, "You guys can't have girls up here in the seminary, you idiots!" And we weren't studying to be priests or anything, but you get these. We thought, well, we're just trying to make friends with the natives there. What are you talking about? So we got, but yeah, I know what dysentery is like, and I know what that's all about. You should take a train in Vietnam, Phil. I didn't take the train, but I sat in that. They have like the train tracks, and literally you're having breakfast, and your table is a foot away from the train track, so that train
We-
is
we
zooming
said-
through. That's pretty cool.
We had a great time.
Did you do that too?
We had a
or-
great time in Vietnam and Cambodia. It was what an awesome trip.
I didn't go to Cambodia.
Yeah,
How is
let me tell you,
Cambodia?
it was good. You know,
I wanna
it was
go.
it was great. We had Siem Reap and all these old ancient temples and stuff. But the people were great. Now you know it's funny is they're communist countries, right?
Yeah, right.
And yet the people are all smiling. They're all happy. They,
Yeah.
you know, you don't see any homeless. You know why? They will take the homeless people to their families. I don't know what they do if their families don't take care of them. But maybe that's where the communism steps in.
Probably it's
And-
not good.
Manages itself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hey, take care of
But
this or
you
else.
really, overall, you don't see any problems. I mean, when
you
we
don't
were
see any
there,
homeless in China,
no,
mainland.
it's amazing.
yeah.
But because what they'll do is they'll take them back to the families, right? The families are responsible.
I'm guessing, yeah.
That's what they do
Personal
there.
responsibility is a big thing
That's
in
what
Asia,
they do there.
which
Yeah.
is not a
Yeah.
bad thing.
So you better take care of them, or I think everybody is liable at that point.
yeah.
But you know, just the exchange rates, even when we were there, 100 US was equivalent to 1,400,000, something like that. I look at it now; it's probably double that, 100 US dollars. We didn't spend between Gail and I, and we pooled all the money together with all the people that were there. There, you know, I forget how many. There was 4 couples. Pete went on that. Pete Demers, Jeff went, you know, and Norm and Rose, and yeah, there's 8 of us, and so we all did $100 a couple for the week. For the week, Phil.
That's amazing.
We didn't go through $50
I
in a
know.
week, and that was picking up all the tabs while we're on the road, while we're eating
Yeah.
and everything else. The hotel stuff were 5-star, beautiful. Food was phenomenal, and now it's almost twice that on the exchange.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Go figure. It's amazing. I would do that trip again. Awesome.
I'm ready to
It
go.
was
You know,
really
in
good.
fact, we should let everybody in on this because you and I started mentioning to you, and this is something I think many of you would be interested in. I said to Danny, I said, "Hey, would you be interested in traveling to Mexico and fishing some of those big bass lakes? We should start doing some travel
You know
stuff
what?
together.
Absolutely.
We don't only have to stop
and
in
we
Mexico.
could bring, you know, I mean, you guys, we could
We'll
fish
bring these
together,
guys
and I'll
along with
rotate
us.
into each one of the boats every day or whatever.
Yeah.
With whoever's coming, you know, I would love doing that.
And, you know, we'll
that's
go
fun.
live so everybody
Yeah,
can follow our
yeah.
journey, and we got to do that.
And that
Danny.
type of fishing, to be honest, Phil, is like how my roots were. I threw straight artificials in those early days when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And it, you know, I think even junior high school, my cousin Rod started me out. But I mean, yeah, you know, it brings back the old roots of fishing the artificial, and I love that too.
You know what? Here's another one that I've been dying to do, and I haven't done it. I don't even know what they call these things, but there's some giant, nasty-looking trout in Mongolia.
Or like the taimen?
Yeah, exactly.
The taimen.
There's a guy
Yeah.
that I met in China, and that's his thing. He's out in the wilderness. He sends me these pictures of wolves and all this stuff constantly. And he goes, "I will take you to some of the most outstanding fishing in Mongolia." Man, I would love to do that with you.
You know,
What
and,
a show
we'll
that
do,
would
we'll
be.
do some homework. We'll talk to Steve.
Yeah, there
'Cause
you go.
You told me he did a lot of
There
stuff
you
with
go.
Larry Dahlberg when Larry was doing the hunt
Yeah.
for big fish. So that's where he got a lot of his travel experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was Steve is the one that set up our Cambodia and Vietnam trip too. So you know, the one thing when you deal with guys like that, and I'm going to be fishing with them down the Bay of Los Angeles in June, is you talk about any type of travel deal. It has to do with the extent of the homework that you've done. You don't want when you're traveling, you don't want any surprises, folks.
I know.
You want everything to go just right.
Well,
as
normal
with-
people don't.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, but when you do your homework, you have backups on the tackle that you need and things like that. And when you're innovating new areas to fish, and you know, that's to me, that's the exciting part about the whole deal. And we're going to be doing that in June, so we'll keep you posted. But yeah,
We got to
the
do
trip will
that.
do great. Bill.
Back to reality for a
Yeah.
second, okay?
Yeah.
We've been thinking about all these great trips and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Danny, bring some Italian bread home tonight for dinner.
Oh,
Gail says she's making a beautiful dinner for
Oh.
you tonight, and she needs Italian bread. So don't screw this up, Danny.
hey, yes,
Or
Warden.
Gail, I stick up for Gail all the
Yes,
time.
Warden. I'll
Ga-
get it.
By the way, Gail, beautiful time at your home the other night with Gary. Great food. Totally enjoyed myself. Thank you so very, very much. Dan Smith says, "Oh yeah, that that Dan Hernandez show. You also get to see Captain Danny put the screws to a skippy And you also get to hear Captain Danny yell, "Hook up!" We've
Oh
heard it here
yeah,
on
you've
this
heard
show,
it here
man.
many times. You know, then the problem is we don't want the old folks getting heart attacks and stuff, babies crying and whatever. But yeah, it's loud. I could go above those 871s on the Mustang. Yeah.
Well, you got to let those guys, you got to know,
Oh
man.
yeah.
Pull them out of
Oh,
gear, right?
absolutely.
Go in,
Absolutely.
go in and get those albies while they're biting. Gail says the door is
Well,
always
that means you're
open.
fed.
Huh?
You're fed tonight. Should you choose that?
Are you
I love it.
again?
I'm talking again. Yeah.
These guys can talk like
Yeah.
crazy.
You want to be
I
on
lose some
camera
weight.
here,
No,
Dean?
no.
Well-
I'm just a working guy.
Dean's here.
It's the working guys that keep everything afloat.
That's right.
folks.
Dean, you should walk in there. So can I turn the camera
That's
towards
all right,
you so
but that's
people
what-
can at
that's-
least? All right, perfect.
there you
This
go.
is Dean, everybody.
Hey,
He is a incredible
Nice.
guy.
nice to meet
Boy, Fig.
everybody. You know what? I know how to fix stuff, but I don't know how to fish.
You know what,
That's
Dean?
crucial.
Dean fixes all the boats here, but I have had some extended conversations with him, and he is a talented guy that can make absolutely anything. You talk about MacGyver. This guy is beyond that, an incredible guy, hardworking, and a real honor to know. I mean that sincerely.
Thank you.
Yeah, good
Thank
stuff.
you, sir.
Hi, Dean. Good seeing you, bud.
Nice seeing you.
All right. Anything else? Should we keep going here?
Well, no, I mean, if there's no questions, well, we'll let everybody get going. But yeah, no sweat.
I'm just waiting to see that.
Think of anything else before my wife gives me a bigger shopping list?
Yeah, really. Hey, anybody else want to say anything out there?
Honey doo-doo list?
Oh yeah. I'm doing it on the way home here.
All right, here we go. If you're going to the Bay of LA, the first week of June is perfect, he said.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've been to the Bay of
I've
LA.
been to the Bay of-
Want to talk about that a little
tell
bit?
you, I absolutely love that place. It's like going back in time, folks.
Down inside the Sea of Cortez.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you go through. We
I
took a
fly
nice
over
drive.
all the time.
Do
I
you?
fly down there?
Oh my God. Well, we drove, and it was a beautiful drive. You go down to San Diego, then we went inland, crossed at Mexicali, and then went down the coast. So you go through San Felipe, and you take a nice drive. You stop and have lunch and breakfast, and it's just a gorgeous drive on that inside. And we get down to Bay of LA usually in the afternoon, and then we check in. And Steve's, you told me he's got this all set up, but we're doing a neat trip with him this year in June, and it's going to be on Aponga, but we're going to stay overnight, sleep on a beach, and that way you're down in the Cabria and the Vaqueta land. You got more time down in the area instead of running, which is, again, leave it to Steve to get innovative and to get some of the Pongeros and stuff to change up the trips to enhance them and make a better trip out of it. And Steve, he's always thinking. Trust me, he's the best at it. But there's nothing like Bay of LA. It's super affordable, but it's just a whole different deal. Whole different deal.
You all my
Yeah.
pictures.
Oh, I would love to get him.
When I went, we flew into Cedros and fished for the weekend in Cedros.
Yeah.
That would be really.
Are you kidding? We would love that, man. I'm putting a mic because nobody can hear you otherwise.
Anyway, Cedros was the most fun I ever had fishing in my life.
Oh, Cedros is great. I wish we had it. We fished it when we were still allowed to fish down there.
Do you want to
know?
talk? Do you
No,
want to
no,
sit
no,
down and
no,
talk?
no.
'Cause
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
fascinating
No,
guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to get it. No. I got to eat. I haven't eaten all day.
All right, Dean. Thank you, man. Thanks for coming by. We love you. And one of these days, we're going to get you to sit here because you got so much great stuff. Hey, look, we talked ourselves into more questions here, man.
Oh my God.
All right, well, here we go. Patrick Harnjack says, good evening. We just got on super late. Blue Sky says, big yellows on the surface iron in the Bay of LA.
Oh yeah.
And then in Montana, Patrick says, just curious if you're able to show Danny that video. We may have missed that already. You've seen that video with Dan Hernandez, right?
Oh yeah.
You've seen that. He's seen that.
Oh, yeah.
Take care, Dean.
You bet.
Yeah.
Have a nice evening.
All right, love you,
Yeah,
man.
Cool.
Great guy, by the way. Yeah, he's seen that, Patrick, before. We've talked about it quite a bit here this evening, and I thank you for sharing that with us. Greg Bates, let's start a pool to see if Danny gets the bread. Hey,
Well, Greg, it's
Danny's
got to be
gonna
the
get
right
the
thing.
bread.
She's Italian, so she's very finicky. So to find good Italian bread, Yeah, it might be a tough time. Like our local Josephs and places like
Where
that
do you
are
go to
closed
get
right
good
now.
bread here in San Pedro?
I'm gonna have to go. No, she's gonna have to get a generic type of French.
Oh, Gail.
Something fresh, obviously. But yeah, our local bakeries like Joseph's and those guys are all closed already. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gail says, Phil, it looks like Danny doesn't have any front teeth when he's on camera. Can you assure people his teeth are there? But he used he used a cut line for years, so he wore the bottoms off.
Okay, you see this,
Hold on,
folks?
let me look.
See that? See the gap?
Yeah, he's got teeth.
Okay, no, but there's
Yeah, there is a little
it's
bit.
chipped. Now,
Is that from chewing on line?
oh my God.
I
Not
chewed
chewing
on
on
it
line.
my whole life.
Okay,
too.
here's why,
That's
folks.
too funny.
I was so hardcore when I was working on. Well, you know, when we got into bites, I
You
was
look
on the
around for
deck.
dikes; they're not there.
Oh,
You got to
yeah.
chew it off.
Or if you have your hands full with tangles, and sometimes you got a loose line, I'd bite. Well, guess what? It chips in overtime, and I've had veneers put on one time, and then I cracked them again. You know, and it's funny because even when I was a little older, you know, I'd go to my folks. I go, "Hey, Mom, can you have some veneers put on?" He goes, "Are you crazy?" you know, they spent a lot of money on my teeth, and they'd see a TV show, and I'm biting the line to cut the line with my teeth. They go, "You got to be kidding!" I said, "No more. You're on your own dental bill."
That's so funny, man.
But
You know
yeah,
what?
that's what it's from fishing, folks.
I can
Hardcore.
I can
That's
remember
how we did it.
the subject came up of braces for me when I was a kid, and the dentist said, "This kid, he's going to get him kicked out playing football anyway, so don't worry about it." So there you
Yeah, it
go.
wasn't football that did it. It was my fishing that chipped away and notched my teeth. And
Blue-
it's a pride. It's you know. She
Yeah,
goes, "Hey, look." She
Mark
goes,
Few is a
"You
fisherman.
look like a hillbilly." And I go, "I don't care. That's my pride of fishing. You know, it has to do with grabbing lines and getting guys out of tangles."
Exactly.
I guess I'm gonna have to go get them done. But
No, it
now
makes
that you
you
guys
special.
understand it, yeah,
It's
There's a
it's
history.
Fisherman teeth.
yeah.
There's a history
yeah,
behind
there's a
it.
history behind this.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
got it.
Blue Sky says Italian Christmas bread, Danny.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's all kinds of goody stuff. Yeah, this time of year. You
Gail
bet.
Kadota says he's getting them fixed. You didn't get veneers. You got them
Well, I
bonded.
had them once before. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
I had them. Well, yeah. It was
And you
bonded.
are going to get them fixed?
I got them. Bonded.
You're going to
Oh, I
fight
don't
back
know.
about this?
I'll use the dike scale. Don't worry.
Patrick says we're going to watch from the beginning here very, very soon. Patrick, welcome to the show. Greg Bates, married Sicilian, no bread. Nice try.
Oh yeah, they're finicky. You're right, Greg.
I don't know. Are they anything like these Costa Rican women? Man, they're
I
crazy.
don't
Let me
know.
tell
Well,
you.
you know what? I mean, but her nickname has always been the Warden.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that where that came from.
Yeah, I know where it came from. You.
No, it came
I'm
from
sticking up for you. Who did come up front?
my partner.
Really?
Yeah, he goes, "Who's this Gail Warden?"
Mm.
It was on my phone. I said, "That's you, dear."
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Chet Young.
Oh, Chet.
Chet, it's so good to hear from you, my friend. Aloha, Phil and Danny from Honolulu. Man, we got all kinds of people from all over the world joining us here this evening. El Norte is blowing through here. It's freezing.
70,
At 70 degrees. Oh, Chet.
Hey, Chet.
You poor
Chet.
guy.
Oh, here, wait. I got the Hawaiian Christmas shirt on.
Hey, I like that.
Huh? Santa with a tuna.
He's
Oh,
got to
I
go
got
get
this,
his
baby.
down jacket and thermals, he says. Down to 70 degrees.
Oh, my God. Brr. Here, Chet. I really feel sorry for you.
Oh my God! You know, so many people from so many parts of the world here tonight
That's
watching.
unbelievable.
You gotta love it, don't
Well,
you?
Gary just couldn't believe it last week when he was looking. He was just dumbfounded by that, But yeah, it's so fun having guys like Chet, but the pioneers and fish travel, and you got guys like Steve now. You told me, but I mean, all these guys have taken those things and just taken them to the limit. I mean, just made it, dialed it in, made it turnkey. Where it was a difficult thing at one time.
And some other people that are watching that you can't see, but I can see because I'm sitting and I can look out at the people walking by. I got 3 or 4 guys who just walked by and pointed at their phone. They're watching your show and they're giving the thumbs up right here.
Oh, cool.
So
Hey,
the Freedom
guys.
is running tonight.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
I imagine some of these guys are on the Freedom and they're watching the show, man, to
Yep,
get all up to
yep,
date on
yep,
everything.
Yep. Oh, that's cool.
How cool is
so
that?
cool.
Daniel Leano says, hey, great show. And he says hello to Greg. So all good stuff. Patrick says, it's freezing here in Montana, 7 degrees and pretty icy. Man,
Wow.
talk about different climates.
Oh,
the people
you
are
know one thing
listening.
I haven't done? Probably one of the only things I
Ice
have
fishing.
done, ice fishing.
I haven't either.
And, I always thought about
Can you catch
sitting
anything
in
big doing
shanty.
that?
I don't know. If you and I went, I think it'd be more like an episode of Grumpy Old Men.
Oh, my God. Or the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Minus one of them.
Either way, but yeah.
Oh, my God. I'm into that.
That'd be fun.
I'm
it's
into
the one
any
thing I haven't done
adventure.
yet. That's the one thing I haven't
Can you
done
do that
yet.
in California?
Or
do you
I
have to go to
don't think so.
Minnesota
I
or
think
something?
you're better off.
Yeah.
Safer, the thicker ice. Yeah.
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 I definitely need
And then I
thicker ice.
think the seasons here, I think a lot of those lakes up in this area, they're all most of them are closed. I don't think they allow it.
Probably do it up there
Especially
with Patrick in there he is. Look, Patrick's he says some of the biggest pike and lake trout are caught ice fishing. Can we come up there and do that with you, Patrick, someday?
Gee,
We sleep
that
on your
would
couch?
be new. That
Yeah.
would be new for sure. Something
Yeah.
I haven't done. It's on the bucket list. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
That'd be
into
great.
that. That would
Yeah.
be fun.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I was like opposed to any kind of cold weather. I just I'm not going to go there or anything. Then in China, well, two things happened. Number one, I finally started to bundle up. I learned to bundle up, and then you're okay. Number two, I was like, I'm trying to lose weight, and it's cold out. I'm not going to sweat. I'm not going to. And then I read this article that says, "You big dummy, when you walk and it's cold, your body's constantly trying to heat up. You burn way more calories." And so then I was out every morning running around the block in China. So that was good stuff. Hey, Chet Young says, nice shirt. Looks like a sumo tuna shirt.
That's exactly what it is.
It is,
Yeah,
right?
we got the little speaker on, but that's all right.
Yeah. I can move that if you want.
That up
yeah,
here?
there you go. You got it.
Okay, let's see.
Now we can really
Is
see
it clear?
Yeah. If
You
wanna-
see?
Yeah, I think so. You want me to move the camera on it?
Yeah, there's a Hawaiian Santa, folks, with a ahi. Chet, just in your honor, Chet.
There you got it. That is one heck of
Tis
a...
the season.
I love it, man. How could you get a better Christmas shirt than that?
Yep, we got that, and we got the Joe Miller hat too. That's a new one. And thank you, Joe, for the hats. We will, and we've been saying the stories, and I'll always reiterate that because it's the knot that I use from trout to tuna. And there's nothing stronger.
Joe's
in
a
my
huge
mind.
fan of the show and watches
Yes.
all the time.
Yes, Mountain Home.
Him and his nephew,
Uncle,
Jeff.
I think too. Nephew, or was it?
I think it's his nephew, but
yeah.
I could be
No,
wrong.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's nephew.
He's the uncle.
Yeah,
Joe is the uncle. Yeah. Good stuff. Hey, we're not through here, Danny. Do you mind going for a little bit longer?
No.
Me either.
Yeah.
I'm having a great time. If
The
you don't
bread's
mind-
getting old, Gail. It's not my fault. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
really. Hang on,
Sorry,
Gail.
I'm just kidding.
Hit that like button, everybody, and share this with a friend. Right next to the like button, you see where it says share. You can send this to somebody right now, and they can tune in like all the folks who are walking by. 20 seconds for you landing here in beautiful San Pedro, California. Back to Patrick up there in Montana. You should see some of the ice shacks they have here, full with kitchens and bars inside their ice shanties, running TVs. Yeah, I guess they're elaborate and opulent kind of things.
Wow.
Now, for me, I'm kind of a basic guy. The last thing I want is a TV. I want to fish and I
Oh,
want
yeah,
to
no, I
experience
agree,
it. But
yeah.
I get that, Patrick. That's crazy.
That's
Sarah
amazing.
says hello. Also, she said, Grumpy Old Men is the best movie. Fond memories with her dad watching it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, right?
Absolutely.
Who was
But
in that? Jack Nicholson? Or?
No. Walter and Lemon.
Oh, that's right. Jack Lemmon
Jack
and
Lemmon, Walter Matthau.
are those guys dead now? Yeah, they must be, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Jack
gotta
Lemmon
catch
and
up.
Walter Matthau.
Yeah.
I wonder if they are.
So stinking funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was perfect.
Grumpy Old Man. Chet Young, where did you get that shirt? I need to know, he says.
It came from over in your land, Chet. You're going to have to, so
Hawaii.
It
Did
came
somebody
from
send it to
probably
you, or were you over there and
Hawaii.
bought it?
I can't even remember. I've had it for a while. Yeah. I've had it for a while. But
Break it out at Christmas?
It's definitely, Hawaiian Santa. Yes. I break it out. at Christmas.
All right, perfect. Well, I don't see any more questions up there. We've been going for what, an hour and a half? More than that.
Holy smokes!
Almost getting
Well,
close
folks, we thank you so much for tuning in and being so loyal to us. So put your questions together for next week, and we'll get you covered.
Yeah, we'll probably be on at the early hour again because
Yeah,
sometimes the landing closes.
and then it's getting dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, stand by. Phil will keep you posted as to the updates on when we're going to broadcast. But yeah, look forward to it. It's awesome seeing and talking to all you. You guys. Oh well, we'll talk to you. We'll wish you the Merry Christmas next week.
All right. Hey, Chet's back though. He says, I know it's kind of far, but Giuliano's is in Gardena and they have
Yeah,
really good bread.
yeah,
Put
well,
the pressure on you.
and the sandwiches. I might as well grab a sandwich. while
Yeah,
we're
you
at
might
it,
as
too.
well.
Yeah, Chet knows. He's been around. He was local here for so many years. Yeah, we had some fun times.
God bless everybody. Merry
Okay.
Christmas. Danny, another great show. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in, folks.
We'll see you soon,
ya.
everybody.
Bye.
Take care.